How do you invest in your team? How do you show your team members they are valued and cared for? A seat at the table is one of our key building blocks of new generation leaders. So today, in episode 7, we are looking at chapter 6 of the book and how to take your business, your leadership to the next level by capitalizing on the table. This season, we're unpacking the tools you need to effectively connect and collaborate with your team. Ready to build your personal toolbox? All that and more right now on the New Generation Leader on IBGR, Profit Radio to start, grow, and exit your business. You are listening to the IBGR Network, International Business Growth Radio Network. We are live across North America and around the world this afternoon. Good afternoon, Rio de Janeiro. This is Thursday, November 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time. I'm Aaron Lee, your host, and welcome to today's episode of the New Generation Leader. I am really excited about today's episode because what we're going to talk about, having a seat at the table, gets us to the idea of how do we make sure that the people on our team feel personally valued, that they know that we appreciate them, the efforts that they contribute to the work of our business, and how do we help them be the best version of themselves, increase their productivity and contributions to the business, and feel fulfilled that this isn't just a clock in and clock out, but that they have a tangible, measurable, impactful role in the work of our business. But as we get started here today, I want to invite you to jump into the conversation. Go to IBGR.network throughout the show today. Download the show notes. Like I said, as we're building this toolbox, we're going to put those tools into the show notes so that you can download them. Create the toolkit that you need to take your leadership and your business to the next level. But while you're there at IBGR.network, click that blinking question mark. Throughout the show today, we want to engage with you. We want to hear from you. We want your voice to be part of what we are doing on the show today and involve your story, your contribution, and let your voice be heard throughout the show today. Well, this is the New Generation Leader Show on IBGR, and I want to share and celebrate a personal accomplishment as we get started with the show today. The New Generation Leader book went to the printers last night. It is in process, getting worked on. It will come to life, hopefully here in the next few weeks. And so as we continue this season, exploring what it means to be a new generation leader, I'm excited that we will have the book to round out that framework of what it means to be the kind of leader that this digital world needs you to be. So really excited about the book. And in fact, I'm going to preview a chapter of the book because today's topic of a seat at the table, how we make our team feel like an integral, important part of the team, makes up an entire chapter of the book. And so we're going to explore that later on throughout the show. We're also going to talk about a key tool that will help us to get a picture in our minds and translate that picture, that ideal, into reality, into practice, into our schedule and our day-to-day operation and rhythm. You know, I had a conversation with my friend Norm yesterday. Norm and I worked together in the disaster emergency management space in both of our previous professional roles. And we were talking about what happens in a community after a disaster, after a crisis happens. There's an immediate relief response. How do we, quite frankly, keep people alive? How do we meet those immediate, significant human needs? And then we start the long road to recovery. And recovery is much longer than that initial phase of responding to the crisis. But that takes time. We have to invest significantly in order to build towards that future. And even get back to, we never get back truly to normal, but it takes time to get back to what will become a new normal, that the stress of the crisis itself has passed us by. Now, why we talked about this yesterday, why I went back to this was This is the environment that we are in right now. COVID-19 is not a natural disaster like we think of a typhoon or a hurricane or a flood, but it is a disaster, a crisis that we are responding to. And we are in that long road to recovery. So, as we look at our environment, at our workplace, our teams, even as we look in the mirror at ourselves, we have to think about what impact has this crisis had on me personally, on my own habits, on my own rhythms, on my health, my vitality. Even if you have not had the coronavirus, you've still been impacted physically, emotionally in our habits and rhythms, and how that has changed how we are responding to the world around us. So it's important for us as we look at our teams and think about the people side of our business that we think about what our people are experiencing. So as we think about that, it has been stressful. You've probably had to change or pivot or adjust or do something different in your business. But have you hit pause? Have you called a timeout and caught up with your people? Asked them how they are truly doing? What's their normal life and rhythm like? How has that changed or altered their habits, their day to day rhythms that they maybe were accustomed to? We really have to lean into this as leaders. We have to listen to our people. We have to pay attention to what's going on with them. And as I look around at a variety of teams and organizations, clients, other partners in our community, I'm seeing this break down into a few different camps. One, the group that is stressed out themselves. The crisis has come down and laid such a heavy weight on the shoulders of leadership that they're not expressing care. I'm not saying they don't care about their people, but because they themselves are in an unhealthy place, an unhealthy rhythm, they are not able to step outside of that and provide some support, some encouragement, some uplifting, that listening ear, the compassion or empathy that you need in the workplace with your team when people are going through hard and challenging seasons. There's a second group on the other end of the spectrum where the team is really tuned in. They are firing on all cylinders. They are innovating, responding to the current realities. They are changing how they go about business, but they're making sure they lean in. They are listening to their people. They are having the conversations and hearing what's going on and how do we need to respond to you and what life looks like for you in order to help set you up for success as we are setting ourselves together as a business up for success. Then there's the group in the middle. And this group I'm calling the business as usual group. Business as usual because they're still trying to get back to not new normal, but same normal. They think if we can just wait this out a little bit longer, if we can just keep grinding, if we can just hold on. And the tendency of this middle group is to keep raising the bar on their people. They are adding more stress on the situation. They're adding more stress on their people. They're adding more weight on what is already a challenging crisis of a season that we're all adapting to. And these work environments become more volatile, even more unhealthy, more imbalanced. It's a significant challenge that teams have to overcome. The infighting, the drama, the arguments, truly the unhealth, the fear, the anger, the trepidation that leaders are projecting on their people. So, as you think about those three environments, think about where you are today, right now, in your current setting. Obviously, this is seasonal and environmental and only related to a significant season of change and crisis that we are in as not just a small community affected by a natural disaster, but a global challenge. How can we show our people that they are valued? How do we show our people that we do care? We do still have a heart. We aren't like one of the characters in The Wizard of Oz. We have a heart. We have compassion. We can fight for our people to bring their best out. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about what it means to have a seat at the table, how we can build those relationships, how we can foster those relationships to not just think about function, not just think about output, but think about who we have on the team, how we can set them up for success, bring the best out of them. And I think if we can come out of today with a healthy reflection on where we are, an awareness of our current reality, we can bring the best out of our people going forward by taking a seat at the table and having stronger relationships as a part of our team. If you're listening for the first time here on IBGR, I want to welcome you. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Join the conversation during the show and all throughout the week at IBGR Network on your favorite social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to International Business Growth Radio. You're listening to the New Generation Leader on IBGR. We are more than just a radio station. We are a network. And I want to invite you to the community of commerce. Go to IBGR.network, join the community, and be part of the ongoing conversation throughout the week with some of the greatest voices from around the world in marketing, in finance, in operations, in people. There are some incredible voices in this community who want to help you increase your profit, take your business to the next level. That's why we are all here, and we're excited to be part of this network. Well, today here on the New Generation Leader, we are talking about a seat at the table. And as I mentioned at the outset, the New Generation Leader is not only the show, but also the book. And the book is coming out next month. You can order it online at newgenerationleader.com. And as we go about this conversation today, a seat at the table is chapter 6 in the book. So in this segment, I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 6 for you. So let's take a peek inside the cover of the New Generation Leader. Just went to the printers last night, so we are ready to go. It will be out real soon. So here we go with chapter 6, a seat at the table. The same week I almost ended up in an African jail. That's a story for another day. I sat down at a table every morning with my hosts. I spent 2 weeks in Zimbabwe that summer, exploring and experiencing life in sub-Saharan Africa. We met incredible people doing life-changing work. We spent some time with kids in the city. We learned about the political challenges of the day and ventured into the African safari. We also visited a small village outside Harare, the capital, which served as a stark contrast to the bustling modern city. Every morning, David, my roommate for the trip, and I sat down at the breakfast table and prepared ourselves a bowl of cereal, juice, and a decidedly American breakfast. But we were experiencing life alongside new friends from the other side of the world. And when we sat down to the place of great equality, the table. We discussed current events, the political climate of Zimbabwe, our faith, our global perspective, our families, and our education. We could have honest, open conversations. We could learn about each other. And we could tell stories and share our perspectives. We covered in-depth discussions around the table each morning. The next year, I spent the most challenging summer of my life in Jamaica. You probably imagined a Caribbean paradise when I said Jamaica. It was not. Seriously, it was very challenging. Significant racial and cultural differences, a rural setting, dehydration, Category 4 hurricanes, yes, plural. It was hard. One weekend, our good friends drove us to the other side of the country to spend a few days in the capital city of Kingston. We paired off and spent the weekend with host families and enjoyed the local cuisine. At the Market Restaurant in Port Royal, on a peninsula overlooking the Caribbean Sea, we gathered around a table and had a delicious whole grilled fish. Eyes, tail, scales, skeleton, and all. The next morning, our host family served a full breakfast. Unlike the American breakfast in Zimbabwe, this one was truly unique to Jamaica. Remember eating peas as a kid, and you could stuff a whole fork full of peas in your mouth and wash it down without even chewing? I'm sure there were other items on the plate I was served that morning in Jamaica, but I only remember 2. First, the grilled beef liver. Certainly not my favorite, but worth the adventure. The consistency of the beef liver needed to be washed down like my childhood peas, reached for the glass of coconut water. For me, this didn't work out. It stands out as one of my most memorable meals ever. Unlike the breakfast table setting in Zimbabwe, this table was much more formal. I do not remember details of the conversation at this table. I don't remember in-depth discussions, exploring our unique perspectives, or our life stories. I'm not even sure whether our hosts joined us at the table. These widely varying experiences solidified for me the value of deep conversation and relational connection around the table. Do your friends ever invite you over to their house for dinner? Think about it this way. How many times have you had dinner at someone's house who looked different than you, or served different food than you grew up with, or represent culture other than your own? Aside from Jamaica and Zimbabwe, the only other example I recall in my life happened a few years ago when our friends invited us over to share their favorite food from their home country. It was delicious. We had a great evening, and we now find a way to enjoy food from their country anytime we can. Do you recall a memorable meal shared around a dinner table? In our on the go pace, we tend to skip over these more refined experiences. We hit up the local spot to share a meal because it won't require us to clean up the dishes or cook. We rush away from the table onto the next activity, but then we miss the real power of the table. Something happens around a table, whether you are at home, at work, or at a friend's table, the power is the same. For starters, gathering around the table together adds a sense of presence. We are together. We are moving slowly and intentionally. No one is pushing us to finish and move on to the next course. Our conversation and our presence dictate the pace. The tables in our homes are not places of productivity or work. So when we sit down to share a meal, the demeanor of everyone at the table shifts. The same can be true in the workplace. We dictate the table experience. So consider this the next time you set up a lunch meeting with a coworker. Be intentional about where you go, even with a break. Will the environment allow you to enjoy the meal and the pace of the conversation, or will you be too distracted to be present? One team I worked with routinely ate lunch together. In season, we gathered around an outdoor table overlooking a fountain on the property, enjoyed other meals around a lounge area in the office. And when they ventured out, they routinely selected dining locations where the people was slow, measured, and allowed deep relational connection and understanding. When we slow down, we can let our guard down. We are here sharing, and we are equals. We can open a window into our world and inside the life of someone else. We don't just share the meal, we are sharing stories. We are giving and receiving pieces of who we are. There is a level of openness and transparency which happens at the table, unlike any other place. What I shared with my friends in Zimbabwe are moments, experiences, and stories which helped expand my global worldview. Someone is also preparing and serving the meal while others are guests. And this service adds a unique dynamic to the meal, where the meal itself is an act of kindness and generosity. We often discuss with our girls the gift of receiving a meal that is prepared for you. For picky eaters, this is hard to imagine. We hope there will come a time to sit down with our girls at a table with new friends, where our girls are served a meal of food they may not like to eat, but I hope they will eat it and appreciate it for the gift it is, a gift from friends served around the table. The idea of a table may seem more suited to the family or friends circles of influence, but the COVID-19 experience has reinforced the relational influence nature of work. For far too long, we have overlooked the people-oriented relational factors in the workplace. Yet it is precisely those factors that influence human behavior in the workplace. When we build influence around the work table, we can invest relational capital in the people we lead. While they are not members of our family or part of our inner circle, they are essential members of our lives. Our investment in them can reap benefits far beyond clocking in and clocking out. With such a strong influence, new generation leaders will tap into the real reason team members perform at work. Relational connections breed influence far more effectively than we can accomplish any other way. And one place it can happen is around the table. One of the next steps that we offer in the book is to download the relational coaching model. And I put together the outline of this model early on in the COVID crisis because I recognized that team leaders were not leaning into their team members. They weren't truly listening. There was, frankly, honestly, and very understandably, lots of stress and lots going on. And as we think about how we lead our people, after what we just read here in chapter 6 of the New Generation Leader, we think about how we sit down around the table with our team. How do we have these relationships capitalize on the influence that we have with the people we spend so much time with at work? How do we fight for them? How do we bring them up to their true potential? This is what happens around the table. This is what can happen in your workplace. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about a specific tool that you can put into action that will help you clarify, bring some rhythm and routine to your schedule, to those details of hour by hour, day by day. How do we make sure we are bringing what our people need in the right amount at the right time? Not just training, not just transactional, not just informational, but truly reaching in and tapping into the potential of our team members and what they contribute day by day, week by week to increase profits for our business, to increase results, and take our business to the next level. Don't forget, we'd love for you to jump into the conversation today throughout the show. Go to IBGR.network, click that blinking red question mark. Ask your question. Jump into the conversation. We would love to have you add your voice to the show. And after this break, we'll come back and talk about a tool called investing time, taking a look at how we invest time in what we are doing, what we are building, what we are developing with our team members. You're listening to the New Generation Leader on IBGR, International Business Growth Radio. Hey, thanks for watching the New Generation Leader today live, not only on IBGR on the radio, but wherever you are watching online. Thanks for jumping into the conversation. Feel free to leave a comment, ask a question, jump into the conversation throughout the show, and download the show notes at IBGR.network. If you post a question on social media, post a thought or reflection from today's show, use hashtag New Generation Leader. And we would love to follow along with your conversation as you explore and build your toolkit, taking your leadership, your team to become the leaders that this digital world needs you to be. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back after this short break. Hey, and welcome back to the New Generation Leader, episode 7. We are talking about a seat at the table, what it means for you to sit down at the table with your team, take your relationships and your influence to a new level with those you lead to help you lead your people like they need to be led in this ever changing, fast paced digital world that we find ourselves in. You're listening to the New Generation Leader on IBGR, International Business Growth Radio. And our hope, our mission here is to help you take your business to the next level, to increase your profits, increase your results, and be everything that you set out to be as a business. Well, we're talking about the table today, and this table idea isn't something we talk about often in the workplace. We talk about it in a family sense, especially in this upcoming season where over the next 6 weeks, we have a number of holidays here in North America where we are sitting down normally around a table with those closest to us. We think about that with our inner circle as we get to the holidays, but we don't often think about the role of the table and what those relationships mean for us in the workplace. So, all throughout this season, we are building your toolkit for what it means to lead. And today, I want to introduce this tool of investing time. And you think about the time that you spend throughout the week with your team, with those you lead, even with your customers. We talked a few weeks ago about the influence that you have and how you build influence with customers to get those raving fans. But how do you have that same level of investment with your team? How do you have raving fans internal to your organization? Raving fans as employees who don't go home and complain about how awful the workplace culture is, what anger and frustration is conveyed by the supervisor, by the boss, how the boss flips a lid and lights a fuse and blows up a situation rather than consciously, methodically building for the future. So when you think about the time that you spend with your team throughout the week, it's important for us to think about these two kinds of time. We have formal time and we have informal time. We have formal time where we have a structured, defined approach where this time each week, each month, each year is dedicated and set aside for us to work through the tangible working knowledge of the business, to build the skills and develop the capacity for the individuals on the team to take their work to the next level. We have to convey this and pass this on to our people if we want to grow. I talked to one of our clients a couple weeks ago, and he laid out for me all of the individuals he was investing in. Very simply, he said, because he never knows if he might end up in an accident and not be able to come to work after that day. So he accepts it as a personal responsibility to multiply himself, to invest himself in the other people on his team, to make sure that they are rising to their true potential. And when we schedule that, whether it's a leadership development pipeline or specific mentoring or coaching that we are taking on with a leader in our business, we set aside the time. It's very structured and formal, and we're working on the details of the business. But we also need to build in the informal time. This is the spontaneous conversation. I go back to a volunteer intern kind of role I had in my teenage years. One of the first times that a leader invited me to come along. Now, don't get me wrong, we had a task to accomplish. We were going out to buy some supplies. Even as a, I don't know, 15, 16-year-old, I had some of the know-how knowledge that this staff member, this leader needed. And so I went along with him. We went to the store, but we had to go to a store all the way across town. And so we got to ride in his yellow Jeep, which, for a teenager was awesome. So we hop in the yellow Jeep and we head across town. I'm sure we grabbed lunch on the way. and we had conversation while we were driving. And it was that conversation, that informal, spontaneous time that this leader was investing in me as a young, up and coming leader that had an impact on me. He had an influential role in building who I was going to become because he said, let's not just focus on checking the boxes and getting things done. Let's lean in. Why don't you come along? Ride with me. We'll take care of some work along the way. But it was that conversation, that meal, the informal, spontaneous time that really took root. And I even think about this with my kids sometimes. The informal things. Hey, let's just pick up and go and do something. So how do we bring that value that oftentimes we only leave around the table of our family or our inner circle? How do we bring that into the workplace? How do we build in that informal time? How do you schedule informal time when it's supposed to be spontaneous? Well, part of this is simply having the self-awareness, reflecting on this for who you are, for how you operate, for your tendencies. We're coming up on the end of the week. We've got this afternoon and tomorrow. One leader I talked to earlier is taking tomorrow off as a preview of next week's holiday week. So maybe you're starting to wind down. So you've got enough of your week to look back and ask, how have I spent my time this week? Just go back through your calendar day by day and get a running tally of how your time has been. Has it been mostly formal and structured? Have you set aside those blocks of time for accomplishing specific tasks of investing in people? Has it been mostly informal, spontaneous? Have you found those moments of, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this issue. Let's talk about what's going on and get to know a little bit more about you and your motivation and your why. And we have to be truly honest to ask this question. We have to be honest with ourselves and ask, have we spent any time investing in other people? Or have we solely been working on the tasks and the output and the accomplishments of our team and our organization? When you think about investing time, having a seat at the table, it's those informal conversations that, frankly, for me, I am not a people-oriented communicator or thinker. I am the part of the population, roughly 50%, that thinks more about logic and vision than about people and values. So which side are you on? Are you more inclined to find that informal, spontaneous time to have a conversation, to check in on the people on your team, to explore who they are, how they're wired, what has made them tick? Why are they the way that they are? We talk about the influences of how we show up in our communication, in our conflict, in our problem solving, in our brainstorming, and in our dreaming, that these come from three areas. One is our nature, how we're hardwired from birth. One is our choice, the choices we make every day. But a significant portion of how and why we are the way we are is our nurture. Those oughts and shoulds that we learned along the course of our life. From our family of origin, the community we grew up in, the way we were educated, even the regional geographic distinctions of the part of the state or country or world, even the part of the county that we grew up in. All of these influences are things that we can tap into in the stories of our team members in that informal, spontaneous time. We get to know more of why, how, what's your experience, what has your perspective been on the world around us? And it's truly, as we unlock this human capital that we have within our team, we may encounter something from someone's story that clicks with a part of our story or a dream that we have within our organization, that we can accomplish even more together when we uncover those pieces of the story. But it doesn't often happen in the structured, often monotonous rhythm of our workday. And it certainly doesn't happen if we skip right on past taking the time to invest in people. So think about your time this week. Has it been formal investment, informal investment, or no investment? And simply reflecting on that will help you get a better idea of your current reality. And then as you look towards next week, here's the great thing about a holiday week that's short. You might be cramming a little bit more in to a few shorter days before you take time off for the holiday. But you have an opportunity to try something new next week. So after you've established the reality of where you have been, of what this week looked like, think about how you can try something new next week. Then you don't have to try it for a whole full week. Just a small piece. Take one step, one goal. Maybe it's a formal time. You set up an appointment with somebody. Maybe it's informal and you say, you might even need to block off the time and say, this is my time, 15, 20, 30 minutes where I'm going to connect with somebody. I don't know who, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but let me set aside the time so that we can be ready to have that conversation. Well, we are rounding the corner. We're going to take a short break here for a couple minutes. And when we come back, we're going to wrap up today's segment here on IBGR, the new generation leader, on a seat at the table. Hey, thanks again for listening to the New Generation Leader today on IBGR and streaming across social media platforms on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as YouTube. I hope you will go back throughout this season and watch each episode, listen to each episode, download the podcast on your favorite podcast app, and listen in as we build a toolkit to help you lead and become the leader that the digital world needs you to be. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in just a minute here on IBGR. Do you know most teams function at less than 60% of their true potential? How much does this cost your business every year? For every team within your business, it's at least $200,000 in lost revenue. How do you solve this challenge? With Invincible Teams, you can. Measuring the 5 key building blocks of high-performing teams, we immediately know where to start to take your team to its true potential. Start your free assessment today at newgenerationleader.com/IBGR. Hey, welcome back to the New Generation Leader on IBGR. You are listening to International Business Growth Radio, and today on the show we are talking about a seat at the table, the power of that relational influence that we have when we sit down and get to know our team members. Now, one of the great opportunities I think we are trying to build here at the New Generation Leader Show is to help you build a toolkit, to give you some simple, tangible ways to bring your leadership to the next level, to help you lead your business to the growth opportunities that you want to have. And one of the great values that I hold is helping people recognize, helping leaders identify who are those voices who make up your inner circle. And here at IBGR, we have the community of commerce where you can hop into a conversation in our private social network and listen, ask questions, reflect on what each person is bringing up in the conversation. It's a great opportunity for you to maybe find a new voice, a new person of influence to join your inner circle, somebody you can collaborate with, somebody who can help you reflect, see your blind spots. It's an incredible opportunity, and I hope you will join the IBGR Community of Commerce. Go to ibgr.network, click Community of Commerce, and join in. Well, as I mentioned at the outset, the New Generation Leader book is off to the printers and will be available here soon. If you missed the second segment today, we read chapter 6, which is about the seat at the table. And that the seat at the table is the place where we build influence with our team members and those we lead. How do we make sure that our team members feel personally valued? You know, the data shows, all the research, the Gallup 2020 workplace study shows time and time again that many people, many employees feel a disconnect in the workplace. They don't feel like they're being given what they need to do their job. They don't feel like their manager knows, maybe even cares about what they're doing, what they're engaged with, what they're involved in. And truly, it is a missed opportunity. Time and time again, I find leaders who aren't spending time getting to know their team members. They aren't having conversations, whether about tasks of the business or even getting to know them as individuals. That's why the table is such a powerful idea. If we can tap into that human potential that we have on our team, if we can build and develop and foster that passion, we can take our business to the next level. So we talked in the last segment about formal versus informal time. And we talked a lot throughout the show today about the informal time. That it's that balance of finding the right amount of time to informally get to know somebody. That's what happens around the table. There's not an agenda. We're not in a stuffy business environment. We're sitting down as equals across the table, sharing a meal. And there is such wonderful food in our city. I've had some incredible meals with friends, with coworkers, enjoying this great food together. It's such an incredible opportunity in a world like we have that's becoming increasingly diverse, more international flair. We have a bit of every country right on our doorstep. And when we sit down at the table, we can enjoy that together. But as we head towards the close of the show today, I don't want to neglect how we train and invest in our people in formal, structured environments, because just as important as the informal time is, the formal time is important as well. And too often, we ignore both. Now, as Victoria commented, that this balance of formal and informal can be so hard to find. And it truly is challenging to balance that time to make sure we are investing the right amount in each. But you have to start somewhere, right? And if you're not doing either of these, I really do encourage you to figure out what you can do next week, formally or informally, to take one step, just to start and put something into action. Make some change, invest in someone. When we think about formal, informal, or not at all, we can be intentional about this. We can have a plan, we can have a rhythm, we can have goals, or we can be completely accidental. And I hope you will be intentional about where you can grow, where you can add on one step at a time. I know there is a tendency to think about the idealism of what should be, what could be. Just take one step. Just do one thing next week. Informal, formal, just be intentional. So let's think about the formal, structured time that we spend with our people. How much time do you spend reflecting on what you do? The tasks, the rhythms, the values that you place in your business. How much time do you spend thinking about that? How much time do you spend thinking about how you go about doing your job? Not about what to do, but about how you do it. What are those values, those traits that you need to pass along to someone else? As I mentioned on the show last week, I've been listening to this podcast, My First Million, and the guys on My First Million have conversations about business, all sorts of business ideas, and they were talking about legacy. Sean and Sam have been involved in business, they've started businesses, and they were talking about what they want to happen with their ideas when they're gone. And this is a really good question for us to consider. What do you want to happen after you're gone? After you've left an employer, a business, a community, what do you want to live on? How you have invested will have a significant impact on what lives on beyond your time in any place. The investment you make, how you multiply yourself, your ideas, impart your wisdom, not so much imparting your knowledge, but imparting your wisdom. Knowledge is teaching someone, but wisdom is a combination of coaching, encouraging, lifting up, calling to the next level. How you impart that will help someone take your idea, apply it to their context, and begin to live it out. And as we live those things out, then we have great potential. But we need to have that formal, structured time where we're doing this, that we have picked up the key values, the key principles, the key facets of our business that we need to walk someone through. One of the great tools I have found is a self-guided leadership development pathway. You can learn more about this at newgenerationleader.com/IBGR. In fact, you can try it out for free. And feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to walk you through, get you set up, make sure you start on the right path. But this is a great opportunity that you can invite your team members into to spend 20 minutes a week growing as a leader themselves, gaining the tools that they need in just 20 minutes a week. They can do it in their time, in their pace, whenever they can find the 20 minutes throughout the week. It's not just about checking the box. It's not just about what they're learning in terms of knowledge. The beauty is in those 20 minutes, we immediately turn the corner from learning into application. We apply this and multiply it right out of the gate so that it's not just our idea, that we aren't just tweeting or posting We're putting up a slide with another bullet point that someone else has to memorize, but that we put this into action to multiply through ourselves. And that's the power of the table, is how we multiply. When we give our team a seat at the table, we give them an opportunity to be part of our story. And they give us an opportunity to be part of their story. We can find the motivators, the factors, and help our team members feel personally valued, an important, valuable part of the team, a part of the business, and an active contributor to the great things that we're doing. So I hope you find that way to take one step next week, to put something into action, to do something different. And you know what I would love? Drop a comment, leave me a note. Let me know what you plan to do next week. I would love to hear what you have that you're working on. Well, that's been our show today. Episode 7, a seat at the table here on the New Generation Leader. I encourage you, invite you to keep listening to IBGR throughout the afternoon as we continue to explore the people side of business. Add your voice to the conversation at IBGR Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Join the conversation. Be part of the community. We are here for you. We want to help you build the toolkit that you need to become the kind of leader this digital world needs you to be. Thanks so much for listening to the New Generation Leader today. This week, we'll be back soon with episode 8, taking our toolkit, our toolbox to the next level. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.